So, welcome to our Meet Our Creators series. And today I am joined by Fraser Caulfield. Fraser is the Artistic Director of the Australian Theatre for Young People. Thank you so much for joining us today, Fraser.
Oh, well, thanks for inviting me to chat.
So, you've been Artistic Director for more than a decade at ATYP. You're also a very good friend of Riverside, so it's a great pleasure to have you here today. So ATYP is an Australian institution. It's been supporting young people and nurturing young artists since 1963, and it boasts some very famous and prestigious alumni, including Rose Byrne, Rebel Wilson, Lally Katz and Baz Luhrmann. Can you tell us a bit more about ATYP and its importance to the wider arts industry in Australia?
Yeah, it's a fascinating organisation. I moved from Brisbane to Sydney to take on the job with ATYP, and one of the things, I'd been running youth theatre companies in South Australia and Queensland before here, so I'd been watching ATYP for a distance, but I'd never been part of the company before. It was started by a collection of professional artists, as you said, in 1963, who were concerned that with the introduction of television and the kind of changes in society at that time, that young people were going to get left out of the theatre conversation. And so they established the company to create work with leading professional artists to create quality work to engage young audiences. And the company was set up at the same time that Sydney's first sort of professional homegrown theatre company was set up, the Old Tote, and they worked in partnership. So the Old Tote created and staged work for adult audiences, and then those artists were also engaged to create and stage work for young audiences and tour it around the country. As part of that, the artists also started running workshops for young people, and that program was really successful. And then in 1978, the Old Tote went under, and ATYP, because they were so close, nearly went under with it. And the company lost the capacity to do the professional productions. So it focused solely on the workshops and putting young people on stage. And that philosophy has stayed with us ever since. One of the exciting things as an organisation is that we've slowly sort of come full circle. So we still focus on putting young people on stage, telling stories that are driven by young characters and making sure that they're played by actors within 5 years of the age of the character. But we're also gone back to fully professional shows. So we now do fully professional shows with young people in them that we're then able to present and tour.
And they're really fantastic productions as well. I mean, ATYP and Riverside have always had a great relationship. For instance, you guys have supported our short play competition for young people, Sharp Short Theatre, for very many years now. And you've given us some great professional development opportunities for young performers through that competition. But in recent years, we've enjoyed hosting some of those professional productions that you've produced at Riverside, including A Town Named Warboy, Patrice Balbina's Chance Encounter with the Rest of the World, with the End of the World, sorry, The Climbing Tree and Follow Me Home. And we were due to have your latest production of Cusp at Riverside, which unfortunately didn't get here due to COVID. But how would you describe ATYP's relationship with Riverside?
Yeah, Riverside is definitely, our favourite organisation and favourite venue to partner with, because it is so engaged in its community around Parramatta and around Western Sydney. So one of the things that was, to use Follow Me Home as an example. So Follow Me Home is a really beautiful production. It was developed in collaboration with the Advocate for Children and Young People in New South Wales, and it was designed to demystify homelessness. So it's a collection of really powerful short stories that give an indication of the different way young people experience homelessness. Now, to pitch that as an idea to most venues, it sounds worthy, but it doesn't sound like engaging theatre. And one of the things that Riverside was able to do that almost no other venue, I think, would have been able to do, was to host a season of that and fill it with schools' audiences. And actually, because it is a beautiful production and it is really engaging, the schools really responded exceptionally well to it. And as a result of partnering with Riverside to present it, it's now got a national tour next year. And I don't think there are many other venues that could do that, because it has a loyalty. It has a great relationship with schools and its local community, and they know Riverside and trust it. When we want to trial something new that kind of we need people to see and provide feedback on so we can sell it further, Riverside's the best kind of venue to do that with.
And you said trust. Trust is important, because the reason why we were able to take that step of presenting that with you is because we trusted you, Fraser, as well, and we trusted A2YP as a quality organisation to deliver a really quality production for our audiences, and our audiences know that we can see quality, and that quality is key. So thank you for striving for excellence in your work as well. So on that, as a director, you do seem to manage to, I feel like you manage to bring out the absolute best in those young performers that you work with. A lot of them don't have a lot of professional theatre experience when they come to you and they do professional productions, but the performances that you get out of them are incredible. What is your creative process in a nutshell?
So there's sort of two things at the moment that feed into it, but are quite related. So one of them is a philosophy that anyone in Australia that wants to audition for the National Youth Theatre should be able to. So whether you have an agent and are doing television and you know, are an extraordinary experienced 16-year-old, or whether you've never done a show before in your life but think it's something that you want to do, we firmly believe that you should have an equal opportunity to participate. And then the other thing that kind of really drives us with that is then, so we're not looking at how experienced you are as an actor, we're looking really specifically at how relevant what you bring to your performance is to a role. So in actual fact, I think a lot of the reason why the pieces are as effective as they are is because the real focus is on casting and is on finding people that are either able to or naturally kind of bring to a character something that's very similar to what the character in a piece requires. And what we're finding is that tends to give a real sense of truth and authenticity to roles. So, and what's also gorgeous about it is that it means that at times there is a sort of a rough edge to the show. You can get a feeling that this isn't a really polished performer that's used to churning this out time and again. They're kind of, the way they speak, the rhythms they use, the way they're expressing themselves has a kind of a raw edge to it, which also tends to make it feel really honest in its connection with teenagers. And that, I think that's kind of key to why the pieces tend to be so successful.
Yeah, definitely can feel that sense of rawness but authenticity as well coming through that performance. So what's next for A2YP? Can you give us a bit of a sneak peek into what you might be planning for after COVID? You did mention a Follow Me Home national tour, which is fantastic.
Yeah, which is really exciting. So at the moment, of course, we're all in this gazing into crystal balls, aren't we? In terms of saying, what does the future hold? And 2021 at the moment is still a little uncertain for us. So we have a national tour that's been funded to Follow Me Home. We have a season that we're looking to roll out next year, and we're just all waiting to see what kind of happens with restrictions and theatre capacities and things like that to see how we can do that. So as we do that in 2021, we're going to focus also a lot on really expanding our workshop programs in person and online, because we can have confidence that they will be delivered next year. And increasing our kind of range of activities for 18 to 26-year-olds as well as high schoolers. What I'm starting to get really excited about is in 2022, we will get a new venue on Pier 23. So we used to be on the wharf, we've moved off while they've been building, and we moved back on, and we'll have our own purpose-built 200-seat theatre. So we're starting to develop some really big productions to go on in 2022. So ironically, 2021 will be an exciting year, but we're still awaiting to see, and I think what's happened right at this moment, I'm not sure how long it will take this video to get out and about, but right now, you know, that we've just had COVID exploding again in Melbourne and everyone kind of re-looking at what shutdowns are. So next year will be about flexibility and being able to fit into wherever we are. And then in 2022, we've got some big musicals, we've got some big interactive shows. We're looking at kind of an opportunity in some ways to launch the new A2YP in its new venues.
Great, how exciting, I can't wait. So these are some questions we ask all of our creators in our Meet the Creator interviews. The first question is, why do you do what you do?
I used to work in professional theatre, which I loved, but, purely adults. But one of the things that I found when I made the transition and started working with young people, even though initially my idea was it was only going to be a short-term thing, I realised that the experiences that we create and the things that they often learn and gain from it last them a lifetime. And that impact is something that I realised that you don't actually so often get when you're working with professionals in adult theatre. And so the thing that really excites me is the opportunity to create work and create workshops and to do programs that really sort of change the lives of young people, broaden their horizons, and give them an experience that lasts them a lifetime.
Okay, great. What is the last live performance you saw?
So when we were talking earlier, I was saying, so the last live performance I saw was the show that ATYP just was trying to open as the shutdown thing called Cusp by Marianne Butler. And then since then, I think the nearest thing to it has been Redline Productions online readings. And there was one involving you and Leslie and Rose Byrne, which was quite spectacular. So in some ways, that's probably one of the most recent things I've seen.
And what is your favourite Riverside moment?
Well, my favourite Riverside moment, I think, was Youth Week last year. And we worked with different community groups out of Parramatta who put together little performances to present on the stage at Riverside as part of Youth Week. And when the performance started, there were like 50 people in the audience. And we were watching these kids come out and perform. And by the time it finished and the lights came up, the 200-seat theatre was nearly full. And it was like suddenly the audience had just snuck in and appeared over this kind of 2-hour presentation. And it was that was such a diverse audience, and it was so vibrant and was so engaged in what was happening. It was such a kind of reflection of the power and connection that space has with that community.
Yeah, it definitely was something that was pulled together from all corners of the community as well, I remember. And almost like we do have that connection as a venue to those communities, but it was almost a Riverside first having them all come together like that. So it was kind of special for us as well. And the last question is, what are you binging on right now?
Yeah, I've just been watching this series on Stan called The Great, which is not at all appropriate to teenagers under like 17, but it's a modern reimagining of Catherine the Great from Russia's sort of rise to power, and it's spectacular.
Excellent recommendation there. Okay, well, that wraps up our interview for today. Thank you so much again for joining us, Fraser. And we very much look forward to having ATYP back in person in Riverside in the future, and seeing what you have planned for your new venue and your or your tours for next year. So thank you very much.
Can't wait. And all the best for the rest of the show.
Thank you. Bye.